everyone. Today we're going to cover different types of introductions in Español. We'll cover informal introductions, formal introductions, how to respond when someone introduces themselves, and how to ask someone to introduce themselves. First, we'll cover informal introductions. When you're meeting new people in informal situations, you can use hola to simply say hello. Hola. You can also say ¿qué tal? What's up? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? Now, if you want to introduce yourself in these informal situations, one way you can do so is saying mi nombre es, and then your name. My name is. You can say mi nombre es Brisa. My name is Brisa. You can even shorten that to two different ways. One way is simply me llamo Brisa. My name is Brisa. And to make it even shorter, you can say soy Brisa. I'm Brisa. So let's go over them one more time. You have hola, hello. You have ¿qué tal? What's up? You can introduce yourself by saying mi nombre es Brisa, me llamo Brisa, or soy Brisa. Quick tip. If you're going to use the shortest version of introducing yourself, which is soy, know that that is as informal as you can get when introducing yourself. Now, if you are in more formal situations, like you're meeting your elders or you're meeting your boss for the first time, or you're simply working in a situation where everyone is addressing each other respectfully, it's best to address the time of day before you begin any conversation. Here we have three. We have buenos días, which is talking about the morning, so it's like good morning or good day. We have buenas tardes, which is good afternoon, good lunch, buenas tardes. And then we have buenas noches, which is good night or good evening. You can say this to your grandmother, buenos días. You can say this to your boss, buenas tardes. Or if you're in a situation where you're meeting a lot of people or a lot of family members, you can respectfully say, buenas noches. Now that you know that you need to address the time of day in these formal situations, let's go back to informal situations. When you go to these settings, when you just come into a space and say hola, it could seem a bit disrespectful or like you don't respect the situation. That's why it's customary in a lot of Spanish-speaking countries to start any conversation by addressing the time of day when you come in and when you meet someone or when you just simply see them for the first time in the day. Now, quick tip. Now that you know that in these formal situations you address the time of day, if you want to introduce your name, it's best to stick with me llamo or mi nombre. Soy, remember, is the most informal way you can introduce your name. So if you're meeting your new boss, it's best to stick with addressing the time of day, días, tardes, o noches, and sticking with mi nombre es or me llamo. Don't come into that setting saying soy. So it's best to come in and say, buenos días. Mi nombre es Brisa. So we talked about introducing yourselves. Let's talk about how to respond to someone who's introducing themselves to you. So a lot of these words and phrases that I'm going to say are all different variations of pleasure to meet you, it's nice to meet you, pleasure's all mine, etc. They vary a bit on the emphasis of how great it is to meet someone, but they all kind of mean the same thing. Number one, mucho gusto. Mucho gusto. Great pleasure to meet you. Number two, un gusto. Un gusto. Pleasure. Pleasure to meet you. Number three, un placer conocerte. Un placer conocerlo. Un placer conocerte is a little more informal because you're using the te version, conocerte. And if you want to make it more formal, you would say un placer conocerlo. It's a pleasure to meet you, to get to know you. Number four, we have another variation, un gusto conocerte, informal. Un gusto conocerlo, formal. Un gusto conocerte, un gusto conocerlo. It's a pleasure to meet you. Number 5, el placer es mío. Or number 6, el gusto es mío. El placer es mío, el gusto es mío. Both mean the same thing here. Literally, the pleasure is all mine. Number 7, encantado de conocerte, encantado de conocerlo. Again, conocerte informal, conocerlo formal. Encantado de conocerte, encantado de conocerlo. Which means I'm enchanted to meet you. Or it's a pleasure to meet you. So those are 7 different ways that you can respond to someone who's introducing themselves to you. And if you forget, it's always safe to say mucho gusto. And now we're going to talk about how to ask someone to introduce themselves to you in Spanish. Whether you're meeting a group of people or you're at work, in school, or at a party, there are different ways to say the same thing, which is, what is your name? These phrases are ¿Cómo te llamas?, which is the informal way of saying what is your name. ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas? Next, we have ¿Cómo se llama?, which is the formal way of asking what is your name. ¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama? Then we have another informal, ¿Cuál es tu nombre? ¿Cuál es tu nombre? And formal, ¿Cuál es su nombre? ¿Cuál es su nombre? They all mean the same thing, so you're pretty safe using each one. Just note that tú or te is informal and se and su are formal. So depending on who you're asking, you know what to say and how to say it. And there you have it. Now you know how to introduce yourself in informal situations and formal situations. You know how to respond to someone who is introducing themselves to you. And you even know how to ask someone to introduce themselves to you. You have all the tools you need, so go on out there and practice your Spanish. And if you want to practice your Spanish, schedule your first BaseLang class today. At BaseLang.com, you get access to unlimited one-on-one Spanish classes with native speaking teachers, all via Zoom. Try your first week for only $1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.